The World Cup is around the corner, which means these are my final Rugby World Cup predictions. We're going to go through every single group, quarterfinals, semifinals, and then I'm going to pick my winner for the 2023 Rugby World Cup. So diving straight into Group A, we've got New Zealand, France, Italy, Uruguay, and Namibia. Now, off the bat, the first fixture tomorrow night, New Zealand versus France, is basically going to decide this entire group. I mean, we have Italy, who's sort of the middleman that could maybe pull off an upset. I just don't see it happening. Then you've got Uruguay, their number 9, definitely their best player, Santiago Arata. Do I think they could cause an upset in between New Zealand and France? Probably not. And then you've got Namibia, another African team that I would love to see in the quarterfinals, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So for me, this pool comes down between New Zealand and France. New Zealand just got an absolute hiding against South Africa, so I do think they're going to bounce back. France have also just been riddled with injuries. Intermac is out. There's a couple more vital injuries that are out of this French side, so they're definitely weaker. They are playing a home World Cup, and that first game, the crowd is going to be wound up. But I just have a feeling the All Blacks are going to bounce back. No one's expecting the All Blacks to beat France tomorrow evening, and that just tells me they're the underdogs. That's exactly where they want to be. So I'm going to go New Zealand in 1, France in 2, Italy in 3, Uruguay in 4, and Namibia in 5. Then we move on to Group B, definitely the most competitive group in the World Cup. South Africa, defending champions. They sort of just found their form, absolutely obliterating Australia, Wales, and the All Blacks recently. You've got Ireland, the number 1 ranked team in the world. They just completed the Grand Slam. They've beaten the All Blacks away from home twice now. You've got Scotland, who could upset any one of these teams on their day. I mean, Finn Russell's an absolute maestro. Then you've got Tonga, who aren't bad. They've got a massive forward pack and could maybe cause some problems in this group, but I just don't see it happening. And then you've got Romania, who will probably look to target that Tongan game and try win that one. For me, I mean, you can never count out the world number 1s, Ireland. The thing is the way that their fixtures have been arranged is that they play South Africa and Scotland last. So they're going to play Tonga and Romania first, should win both of those games. But how ready are they going to be for the biggest game, South Africa, and then to follow that up with Scotland, who are definitely targeting that Irish game? So, I mean, it almost feels criminal not to put Ireland in the knockout stages, but it could be a stumbling block. And I know if I do predict Ireland not to qualify out of this group, there's going to be a lot of comments saying that the world number 1s, they haven't peaked too soon. It's a different team to all the other World Cups. But Ireland are known for peaking too soon and then struggling in a World Cup, where you've got South Africa, who are peaking now. I'm going to try to be as unbiased as I can, but I do definitely think South Africa top this group. And then that second place is between Ireland and Scotland. Now, you're going to say to me, Scotland haven't beaten Ireland in almost their last 10 fixtures. I know that. But the Scots are going to be up for this game. I mean, Scotland probably will lose to South Africa this week, and they're going to beat Tonga and Romania. And then it's basically a final before a quarterfinal. It's basically a round of 16 game, then the quarters, then the semis, then the finals for those two teams, because it is going to come down to that. Yes, if Ireland do beat South Africa in that third game, it still might come down to points. So it's going to be tight, and I think a lot of people are predicting Ireland to go through in that second spot, but I just think there is an upset coming. I know Ireland are the number one ranked team in the world, and you can put all the hate comments you want in the comments. If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm not, I'm not. I just think Scotland's going through second, Ireland in third, Tonga in fourth, and Romania in fifth. Then we've got Group C, which is also a very, very competitive group. You've got Wales, who haven't been in great form at all. You've got Australia, who now under Eddie Jones haven't been in great form, but we did see in that last game they played against New Zealand that they sort of started to find their rhythm, find their pattern. You could see what the things Eddie Jones are working on, and I think it might just click for Australia in the World Cup. They might have just had enough practice with this new system. Then you've got the Flying Fijians, who can upset anyone on their day. I mean, we just saw them beat England. They're now ranked 8th in the world, so the highest they've been coming into a World Cup ever. You've got Georgia, who have massive forwards. They could definitely get the job done here, and they could definitely upset a Wales, a Fiji, or maybe even Australia. This group is no joke. Then you've got Portugal, who will probably come 5th. So, I mean, there's a lot to consider here. I do think Eddie Jones and Australia will figure it out just before the World Cup or just before they start playing. And I do think Australia go through in first, even though they've been in terrible form lately. Then for me, that second spot is either between Wales, Fiji, or Georgia. Now, Wales have been making an absolute mess of their warm-up games. I just don't see them having the capabilities to take on this Fijian side, who, first of all, are full of confidence. Second of all, have been playing some really good rugby. The only caveat that I do have for this Fijian team is that their fly-off has just been injured. So how much is that going to impact them? Fiji also struggle with depth. So, I mean, getting into the later rounds of the group stage might be difficult for them. But I just think Fiji go through second. And then Wales and Georgia for that third spot. Look, Wales are not in a good place right now. And I think Georgia will capitalize on this. So I'm going to go Georgia in third, Wales in fourth, and then Portugal in fifth. And then we've got Group D, the final group: England, Japan, Argentina, Samoa, and Chile. Now, first of all, England have a couple of suspensions, namely Owen Farrell, who will be out for the first two fixtures, Benny Vunipola, who will be out for the first fixture. The problem for England, though, is that in their first two fixtures in the group stages, they face Japan and Argentina. Their two biggest games are without Owen Farrell. How much of an impact is that going to be? Obviously, George Ford is an incredible fly half, and he should be able to get the job done for them. I just don't know about this England side. They seem to be falling apart a little bit as well. Like I said, they just lost to Fiji. So it's tough. It's really tough. Then you've got Japan, who peaked in the 2019 World Cup, made it through, topping their group against Ireland and Scotland. I just feel like Japan aren't in good form at the moment and probably won't be that much of a threat this World Cup. Then you've got Argentina, who have been playing phenomenally well. Yes, their track record in their last 10 or so games isn't so good, but they did play the likes of South Africa 4 times. They played Australia, New Zealand, England, beat Wales. Beat Australia. This Argentinian team, they've been playing at a very, very high caliber, a high standard of rugby. And now coming into this group against a very wounded England side, Japan on in great form. Samoa is definitely lower caliber than a South Africa or New Zealand or Australia. And then Chile should be quite easy for Argentina to get over. Then you've got Samoa, who also just played against Ireland in their most recent warm-up fixture and only lost that game 17-13. So maybe watch out for the Samoan team. Maybe they have a chance of making it into the knockout stages. And then you got Chile, for me, just making up the numbers. So for me, I think Argentina take this one home in first. I would be very, very surprised if England don't sneak it in second. But then again, Samoa could definitely sneak home in second there. I just think England, they'll figure it out. They will figure it out eventually. So I'm going to put England in 2. I'm going to put Samoa in 3rd. And I'm going to put Japan 4th, Chile 5th. Right, then on to the quarterfinals. And this is where it gets a whole lot more interesting. So the first one, Australia versus England. It's always going to be a tight matchup. Both of the teams aren't coming into the World Cup with much to show for it. This is going to be a nail-biter. It could honestly go either way. But I do think if Australia find themselves in a quarterfinal, I do think they're going to take it, because that means their systems are working. That means they've been operating, where England, they might just scrape through into the quarterfinals. They haven't really come up against anyone major except for Argentina. And I just think Australia get it done over England in the quarterfinals. South Africa, France, massive game. Obviously, the host nations taking on the defending champions. South Africa just looks so good at the moment. And I'm going to try to be unbiased. Obviously, France are one of the favorites to win this World Cup. But I just think with the injuries they've had, they're going to lose a little bit of steam. Yes, it's at home, but I just really don't see much stopping the South African team. The amount of depth South Africa have, Andre Pollard and Am could be back for that game. There's so much depth in that forward pack, and the backs are absolutely lightning. For me, I'm going to call the upset and go for South Africa to take that game. And then we've got Argentina versus Fiji. I think if Argentina get matched up with Fiji, they take it all day. Yes, Fiji will be extremely passionate, but if there's one team that's more passionate than Fiji, it is this Argentinian side. So for me, I'm going to go for Argentina against Fiji. Then another big game in the final quarterfinal, New Zealand versus Scotland. No matter which way you cut this, I think New Zealand are definitely favorites, and I'm just going to pick New Zealand to win that one. Then into the semi-finals, Australia versus South Africa. It's going to be a tight one, but again, I just think the Boks have too much for this Australian side. We saw it in the Rugby Championship where South Africa beat them 40-something by 40 odd points with basically a B-side. So I'm going to put South Africa through to the final, and then in our second semi-final, Argentina versus New Zealand. New Zealand are going to take this one against Argentina. Argentina will be pumped up for it. We've seen that they can beat New Zealand, but I just think in a World Cup semi-final, New Zealand take it. And then our final is the same group stage game as the 2019 World Cup. South Africa versus New Zealand. This one could honestly go anywhere, but I honestly just don't think there's a better side on the planet at the moment than the Springboks. Call me biased, call me what you want. Tell me that I haven't put Ireland through. Ireland are going to fall out and not be a part of the knockout stages. Maybe the quarters, but I don't see them going further further than the quarters, and I definitely don't see Ireland in a final. For me, the Springboks are going to win the final, and that is how the 2023 World Cup final is going to end.